In the beginning of human history, long before great empires, before written civilizations, before kings and wars as we know them, there was a different world. A world of simplicity, a world of purity, a world that slowly changed and declined. Today, on Diven In The Past, we travel back thousands of years to explore the lifestyle of the first humanity before the time of Prophet Nuh, known in the Bible as Noah. How did the earliest humans live? What were their homes like? What did they eat? How did they worship? And what led to the corruption that brought the Great Flood? Let us dive into the past. According to Islamic and biblical traditions, humanity began with Prophet Adam and Hawa, Eve. From them came generations of people who spread across the earth. The world at that time was vastly different. There were no cities, no governments, no written laws, no organized kingdoms. Nature dominated everything. Massive forests stretched endlessly. Rivers flowed untouched. Mountains stood unchallenged by human tools. The population was small compared to later times. Humans lived closer to nature, farming crops, herding animals, hunting and collecting water. Metals were either unknown or very limited in use. Most tools were stone-based or wooden. Clothing was modest and practical, made from animal hides and woven natural fibers. There was no concept of luxury as we know it today. Survival, family, and faith were central to life. Food came directly from nature. People ate grains, fruits, vegetables, meat from livestock, milk and dairy products. There were no markets, no currency, no trade networks like later civilizations. Food was shared within tribes. Survival depended on cooperation. The earth was fertile. Climate conditions were different from today. Some scholars believe the environment before the Great Flood was more stable and balanced. The first generations were taught directly by Prophet Adam. They knew the oneness of God, moral laws, basic guidance for life. For many generations, humanity remained upon monotheism. There was no idol worship at the beginning. People worshipped one God. They prayed. They remembered their Creator. But as generations passed, something changed. After the death of righteous people, communities began to honor them excessively. They created statues to remember them. Over time, these statues became objects of worship. This marked the beginning of corruption in human belief. Before Prophet Nuh, society was tribal. There were elders, leaders chosen by strength or wisdom, large extended families. There were no written legal systems. Justice was handled within tribes. Because people lived long lives, elder figures had enormous influence. Their words shaped entire communities. But long lifespans also meant that corruption, once started, had time to grow deeply. As generations passed, moral discipline weakened. Wealth differences began appearing. Arrogance grew. Powerful individuals dominated others. Idol worship spread gradually. Instead of worshiping God alone, people began associating partners with Him. According to Islamic tradition, 5 famous idols emerged among the people before Nuh. Society was divided between the righteous minority and the arrogant majority. Corruption was no longer hidden, it became normalized. And that is when God sent a messenger. God chose Prophet Nuh as a messenger to His people. He called them back to worship one God, leave idol worship, and repent from wrongdoing. He preached for centuries, but the leaders mocked Him. They said, "You are only a man like us." The poor followed Him, the powerful rejected Him. This period marks the final phase of pre-flood humanity. A civilization that began with purity had fallen into corruption. And then came the divine warning. Before the Great Flood, humanity had tribal societies, primitive but stable lifestyles, long lifespans, agricultural survival systems, growing moral corruption. The earth was populated but not industrialized. There were no pyramids, no empires, no armies like later civilizations such as ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. This was humanity in its earliest organized stage, simple but spiritually tested. The lifestyle of the first humanity before Prophet Nuh teaches us something powerful. Civilization does not begin with buildings, it begins with belief. The first humans lived close to nature. They had long lives. They had strong families. But when faith weakened, society declined. The story before Prophet Nuh is not just ancient history, it's a reminder. Humanity rises with morality and falls with arrogance. This was another journey into the forgotten past. If you enjoyed this deep dive into early human history, subscribe to Diven in the Past and join us as we uncover the stories buried beneath time. Until next time, we dive deeper.